Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 277. And now that episode 207 is done in the books, we got a lot to talk about, because the morality of the different Boruto characters that we're seeing in this Boruto version of the Squid Games, it's definitely been put on the line here. There's a lot to talk about, so getting right into it though, I gotta say I like how the episode opens up where you have Boruto and company. They're inside of that room, and you see how the mental mind games are being played, and you have a moment where Boruto starts showing some of the leadership qualities that you would expect from Boruto. This is one of those times where you see the up and down nature of Boruto, where Boruto is shown being sharp enough that he knows how to take control of the situation, he knows how to lead people, but at the same time Boruto also is a little bit too naive and a little bit too trusting, because Boruto does not realize that there was a traitor in their room. However, the more experienced shinobi, the more jaded shinobi, is the one that looks at it and says like, yeah, this guy right here, he's working with the enemy. He's the reason why we got put into that last trap. And he has this jutsu where he has these bugs that he control, and they go inside the ear of the person and go towards the brain, and essentially you either tell the truth or you end up getting killed. And what we end up seeing is that the dude's instincts were right. He might have been a killer. He might have done some foul stuff in the last episode. However, this guy was 100% on the money. He knew exactly what was actually going on. And so you do see how, even though Boruto has those leadership qualities, there's still parts of Boruto that have not been hardened to the reality of the shinobi world, in the sense of his instincts don't reflect that yet. And I like how after that bootleg Konohamaru ends up being killed off, you have a moment where Ouga ends up showing himself, and he takes them into the next test that they have. And so essentially this next test is all the characters, they have these candles. Their life force is tied to the candles. And so if they end up allowing their candles to get extinguished, the person holding the candle is going to end up dying. And what I like about what we got out of this episode, if I'm not mistaken, Honda actually wrote the episode itself. We get an opportunity to see exactly what Masashi Kishimoto said back in Jump Festa in 2017, so December 2016. Masashi Kishimoto outlined the differences between Naruto as a character and Boruto as a character. And one of the things that Kishimoto said was that Boruto was the type of character who, when he plays games and when he's just into jutsu and training and all things in life period, Boruto's a character where he's more sarcastic, he's more observant than say Naruto was, and he's the type of character where he knows all the shortcuts, and if he doesn't know them outright, Boruto's the type of character where he looks at a situation, he finds the shortest path possible to get the desired outcome, and that leaves him skipping steps here or there. Well, in this episode we get an opportunity to actually see the good and the bad aspects of this, because what ends up happening is Boruto, as he's leading the team through the underground water sewer system, and Boruto's walking with the candle, Boruto has a moment where after one of the people that is in that experiment with them ends up dying because they sneeze on his candle, they get trapped into a waterway. And so Boruto looks at it and says like, okay, I'll just give you my candle and I'll raise the gate up myself. Well, Boruto, he looked at it and said, this is the quickest way possible, I'll raise the gate. However, what we see is that Boruto needs help. It's not something he can do on his own. So they end up raising the gate up and they end up advancing to the next area. The next area has everyone in a trash pit that's covered with sand and it's covered with trash trash and everything's been heated up to a point where it's almost like a desert. And so the high heat itself is so hot that it's going to begin melting the candles. But on top of that, you also have a dust storm. And so it's the classic Naruto situation of seeing past deception, the move hidden behind the move. So while they're worried about the dust storm, they also have to worry about the high heat and high temperatures. And they don't realize about the high temperatures until another woman ends up dropping dead. So we have 2 deaths already in this episode, and there's going to be more that is following. So essentially, once the sandstorm starts shooting out, Boruto gets the kid from the stone village to begin making a mud wall jutsu. However, his mud wall, because of his current strength level, the mud wall is not very durable. So Boruto comes up with the brilliant plan of like, hey, we'll just give our candles to all the non-shinobi. They'll hold on to the candles. And when they hold on to the candles, we'll just protect them by forming a barrier around them. Very smart. That's, again, you're seeing the sharper sides of Boruto. However, after one of the women ends up dropping dead and Boruto and company manage to clear the next stage, they get into a waiting room and you're thinking this is going to be it. This is going to be the last time that they're going to be tested. However, it's the move hidden behind the move. There's another test hidden behind another test. And so 2 people end up getting on the other elevator and they end up going up to what they think is going to be the waiting room. However, both teams that are on the separate the elevators are moving slowly, and so it becomes a situation where the candles are going to melt. And so you only seemingly have one option, which is to kill the other people in the elevator until enough people have candles that are going to allow them to stay alive, because you can combine the candles. However, what Boruto thinks is, well, wait a second, why would I do something like that when we all have candles and we all have candle wax? The candle wax hits on the ground, so why don't we just combine all our candles, and as long as all of us are touching the candle itself, we won't actually violate the rules. And that's essentially something that Ouga never actually considered. And so you're seeing how Boruto finds a cheat code within the game, similar to how sometimes you have games where they think like, hey, we caught all the bugs, and then somebody ends up finding a bug, because that's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for a loophole in the situation. So I thought it was kind of cool that you saw Boruto's sharp thinking in that aspect. Again, that's very in character for the original vision for Boruto Uzumaki. So I thought that was cool to actually see that part of Boruto. And so you see the morality being brought into question in this episode here, because while you got the kid from the stone village who's an absolute simp, and he ends up getting used by the girl that he was carrying, that same girl goes onto the elevator with a stronger shinobi, and that stronger shinobi and the shinobi from the cloud village, they end up looking around and they realize that they're gonna have to kill innocent people in order to acquire candles. At least with the girl in the cloud village, you see how she's hesitating, because you can look at her and tell, like in the last episode she was very money hungry, in this episode you can tell she's money hungry, but even she seemingly had morals. She had lines that she wouldn't cross at first. However, what we see is that when it comes to choosing her life and the life of her client and these 2 innocent people who got on there, we see her get off of that elevator and she's got blood on her hands. You can tell that she's mentally shattered from it. So I like how what this episode shows you is that, like, okay, even the bad people have moral lines that they're going to have to cross. But you see with Boruto, because of how Boruto was brought up, because of the way that Boruto's mind works, it never crossed his mind to kill anybody. And it just goes to show you that everything here is a choice. So I thought that that was interesting there. And then on the flip side, you have Mitsuki and Sarada. They're doing the investigating because they're trying to find out what happened to that train with the civilians that went missing, and we find out it's been 5 days since Boruto and company have been involved in these experiments. And so what I like about this is that Sarada and Mitsuki, they finally tracked down the employee that made it possible for the train to go missing. Before the guy can disclose too much information, he takes off running down a tunnel. The tunnel is filled with paper bombs, so the guy ends up dying inside of it. And so Sarada and Mitsuki, they're at a dead end. However, at least the good news for Boruto is that there are people who are investigating. At least right now it's just Sarada and Mitsuki, but there are people who are investigating. So I thought this was really interesting to just see how something like this was being set up. The morality is the more interesting thing. Now, I know last week, based off of the episode, that a lot of you guys said like, hey, this is like a beat for Squid Games. That's actually gonna be my episode question, you guys. Is this a retelling of Squid Games? As I told you guys last week, I did not watch Squid Games. I don't watch a lot of television, so I missed out on the whole Squid Games thing. It might be something I watch later on down the line, but again, I don't watch a lot of TV and I don't watch a lot of movies, so it's one of those things where I'm going into this news. I don't know if it's being referenced, but now I'm curious and I want to know how much of what we've seen in these last 2 episodes is a Squid Game type vibe. While you think that over, click here to watch this other Naruto Explained video, or click here to watch my Black Clover chapter 344 review over on KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN.